I wish that the best cases went to the best lawyers. That would be great for everyone. Unfortunately, because we deal in reality, the best cases go to the law firms that are generally the best marketers, because they're the ones that are getting their message out there, and they're the ones that become known. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on how to attract high-value cases consistently, how smaller firms can compete and differentiate without a massive marketing budget, and how to uncover and leverage what makes your firm truly unique to make an impact in your market.
You're better off being different than being better from a marketing standpoint. And it's not to say you shouldn't be a great lawyer. 1000% should be a great lawyer, but it's just acknowledging the fact that being a great lawyer is not enough if you want to make a great impact. And if you want to make a great impact, you have to be able to reach your ideal clients. And in order to reach them, you have to market.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Here we are, another AMMA.
So good of you to join us.
I know, it's just a true pleasure, Michael.
Well, I'm glad you were able to pop in today. You know, we got
I've been on a little hiatus here.
Yes. So at the time of this recording, right? So Jessica popped in just to record this AMMA.
Yes, just for the people.
We've got a sick child at home, and we told her, hey, we got to record a AMMA today, and she said, well, what is that?
Does she care?
I said, it's a podcast. She said, what is that? Right? She has no idea what a podcast is. Just over the years, I admire and respect those that have built businesses with kids. There's probably going to be people listening to this podcast that are like, well, duh, right? But it really forces you to be very intentional in terms of your time. So when a person who does not have kids says that they don't have time.
Or that they're tired. That one really gets me.
That's the one, right? I think the biggest challenge really stems from the... Well, one, you're raising humans on both sides. And then two, it's the unpredictability of the schedules. And especially if you add kids, then it's like compounding effects. Right?
Oh, yeah. Then you throw in a few snow days. And I don't think we've had one normal week yet this year.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to a normal 5-day week.
all the sicknesses, all the ailments.
Yeah.
So,
knock on wood. I'm still holding strong.
That's why you got to just find a way to succeed in spite of it all. It makes it worthwhile. I'll put it that way. But it, as the saying goes, like if you want to get something done, assign it to a busy person. And I believe a lot of that is to do with the fact of how busy people have to be very intentional about their time. Like I don't do well with a whole lot of white space on the calendar, right? That no good thing has ever happened from having a lot of white space on the calendar.
But it would sooner send you home than give you white space.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Because then I start, slacking people and pinging people before you know it.
You start meddling.
I'm wondering of, explain to me why this process is the way that it is, right?
When you haven't looked at processes in 5 years, and then
And they're like, oh, he doesn't, he
go.
doesn't have something to do right now, right? So anyway, this will be fun. I'm excited to get back to these AMMAs. For those of you listening for the first time, you guys submit the questions and we answer them here on the show. And you can text us at 404-531-7691 with your questions. And then Jessica compiles all of them. And then we also have the other types of episodes. We've got our traditional interview format, where we bring in experts from the legal industry and beyond, and we pick their brains. And then we also have the encore editions where we brought back some of our more popular episodes and we bring them back on this podcast. So I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for the episodes we got coming up, and I'm excited for this AMMA. What questions do we have this week, Jessica?
All right. To kick us off this week, question number 1. Michael, I want the big cases. I know everyone says that, but that is where we excel, and I've been struggling to bring in high-value cases consistently. I've tried everything from TV to social media, but nothing seems to stick. What's the best strategy to attract the type of cases I want?
So you want the big cases and you want the high value cases.
Like everyone else.
So does every other lawyer in America. So what do you do about that? Like, how do you get them? Because obviously there's law firms that do get these cases more consistently than firms that, that don't get them. What are they doing differently? And really it's asking yourself, like, why should you get one of these cases? So if you think about it, if somebody were to search, I don't know, your practice area, your market, and online, what would come up? And first of all, would you even come up? But then let's say you did. Let's say you come up on the first page. Let's visit those other law firm websites and see from a consumer standpoint, like from a prospective client, can they tell them apart, right? Because you'll say, well, I've got a lot of awards, so do they? And you may say, well, I've got great reviews, so do they, right? But I'm the best. Well, they say they're the best too. So how can someone differentiate? And the best cases typically come by way of referral or word of mouth, right? And because there's some sort of filtering and vetting in place. And then you have to consider, well, who are the firms that more consistently get high value cases? And if I think about, just even some of the firms that we work with, generally the thing that they have in common is that they are very specialized in a particular area of practice, whether it's motorcycle accident cases or truck accidents or birth injuries or medical malpractice. Like, they are the go-to expert, right? So we've had, several of them on this podcast, like David Craig, specializes in trucking out of Indiana. He's written books on this. He speaks on this. Nick Rowley, we've had on the podcast. Adam Malone, specializes in med mal. Nelson Tyrone, birth injury. So it's being seen as the authority for a particular area of practice. So there's authority, then there's authenticity, then there's social proof in the way of reviews, and obviously client testimonials. That's obviously very helpful. And then there's emotional connection. People aren't necessarily hiring a lawyer for logical reasons. They're hiring who they like and feel that they can trust. So how are you differentiating yourself and standing out? I mean, there's not a quick, easy way to be able to get there. The ones that are consistently getting the great cases are, again, they have a clear niche and a clear area of focus, and they've established authority for that particular practice area, because now they're getting referrals not just from other clients, but other lawyers. That takes time, but it's worthwhile. And whether they do it through writing books or speaking at trial conferences or hosting their own events, running a podcast, they do something consistently over a long period of time. And I mean, Joe Fried said this when he came on our podcast. He said that he gave a presentation on trucking, I believe it was every week for 10 years straight.
10 years, yeah.
That's how you become the authority.
Right.
But the best time to plant a tree was, 10 years ago, but maybe the second best time is now. So you can get started on this. And that's the way you can attract more, better cases. The simplest thing, if you what I think will make 80% of the difference, if you want to go 80-20 on this, is just having a clear niche, clear area of practice. Because if you say, hey, we do personal injury, right? That's very broad, that's very general, but if you can hone in on a particular niche, that can really help you from a positioning standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. It can help you, start to really build brand in a particular area. You get more of the cases you want when you start saying no to everything else. And if you're for everyone, well then you're competing against everyone. And the least crowded place is always when you have the least amount of competition, which is when you're at the top. And again, this doesn't mean that you're this massive practice. It just means that you have a clear and unique value proposition, that you've niched down, you have a clear position of who you're for, who you're not for, and that makes it very easy, or much easier at least, for prospective clients to be able to discern you from any other law firm.
Totally agree. All right, so for question number 2, as a smaller firm with a limited budget, I feel like we can't compete with the big players in the market. How do I stand out when I don't have the resources for flashy ads or expensive campaigns?
So how do you stand out and compete against the big players when you don't have the budget of the big players? I'll tell you what not to do, and it is to compete against large law firms on their turf, right? In the same mediums that they're competing in. So if they're investing a lot in traditional mediums, TV, billboards, radio, etc., one of the worst things you can do if you really want to put dollar bills in the shredder is try to compete with them dollar for dollar, because you can't. I mean, you don't have the financial resources to be able to do so, and you're not going to make enough of a dent to really make a meaningful impact for a long enough period of time. So the best thing you can do is compete in areas where they are not, or where they're not heavily investing and spending in terms of marketing dollars. So again, limited budget can mean a lot of things. I mean, I don't know if it's so limited, you're just getting started, in which case I would say take other lawyers to lunch.
Kind of network.
And that is the most limited budget thing you can do, of just networking and meeting other lawyers who can send you the cases that they don't want or overflow, and then work those cases and make some money, and then you can invest more. You got to start somewhere, right? Maybe you have 2 lunches a day, right? And you have like first lunch, then second lunch. You're meeting 10 lawyers a week at least,
Right?
And you're connecting with them. So that's the cheapest way to do it, like the least expensive. But I also would say that there's never been lower barrier to entry from a marketing standpoint than there is today. I mean, thanks to social media. I mean, you can go online. I mean, you can post anything. You can post anything on any platform. You can post on LinkedIn. You can post on Meta, right? Whether it's Facebook or Instagram, or like you can film a video on your phone that may be informational or educational. That's free to do if you have a phone, and you can put it online. If you wanted to normalize this stuff, there's something called CPM, which is cost per milli, which is what does it cost to get 1,000 impressions? And generally the highest costs are traditional advertising mediums like TV, radio, et cetera, even billboards. And the lowest costs, not always, right? It depends on the market, but generally the lowest costs are on social media platforms in terms of, how many people you can reach for the lowest cost in the most targeted way. And then you get data back as well. So I would consider building a social presence. You can market that way at scale, even with a limited budget. Also, we're now seeing it's a new service we launched even at the summit last year with streaming and OTT. So most households, I think over 90% of households at this point now use like some sort of streaming platform, whether it's like a Roku or an Apple TV or a Chromecast. You can run ads, like TV ads, on these streaming platforms for a fraction of the cost of traditional advertising. And you can run them in live sports, and you can run them in just, on premium networks, like really the same networks. The only difference is that somebody is consuming this through a streaming device.
Right.
And that could even be on their phone. It could be on their tablet. It could be on their computer. And it could be certainly on, just like a smart TV, which is how most people, they've cut the cord. That's just how they are consuming that content. So, I mean, we hear from clients all the time. They see their content on, they're watching TV and the commercial hits, whether it's like the NFL playoffs or anything, like even college sports. And then they see their commercial and people are just blown away. And they're like, whoa, how did you get airtime? I thought you guys weren't like some massive firm. And it's like, well, there's the cost at this point, much lower. So there's things you can do to, be very, very creative. It doesn't mean you have to spend a whole lot of money, but generally you do have to make an investment if you do want to grow your firm. But like I said, I would not compete in the same mediums that, the large players are competing in, because Dan Kennedy has this saying that whoever's able to spend the most amount of money to acquire a customer will win. And it's, that's really what's happening on a lot of these traditional mediums, in that you're competing against multi-million-dollar marketing budgets. So if you're not able to invest at that level, I would not recommend, playing that game. But if I'm looking at it, I'd say social, I'd say streaming. And again, both of these platforms, you get so much data back. There's so much tracking. The targeting is way better. There's just a lot of opportunity there. And I mean, if you're just starting out, maybe you have to create your own content.
Yeah.
But we all have to get started somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options. There's more options now than there've ever been. And it's much, much easier. I mean, you got to think about this. Like 20, 30 years ago, you did not have this option. Like if you weren't one of the lawyers on a billboard or on TV, good luck.
It. Yeah.
So, and also, I mean, let's not forget like community efforts. You can participate in like various organizations within your community. You can sponsor things. You can go out and hand out turkeys if you want. And you can hand out backpacks if you want. There's things that you can do to be active in your community. You don't have to reach millions of people at the same time. Sometimes it's, if you're, very well connected and integrated with a particular community, maybe it's your local neighborhood association. Maybe it's like, the kids' schools. I think there's a lot of options, a lot of things that you can do, but you got to pick something. And then the final thing I'll note on this is just to focus on that thing. It's better to do one thing really well than 10 things just in a very mediocre way of saying, well, we tried all these things and it didn't work. Well, sometimes it doesn't work because you didn't invest enough in it, or you didn't invest enough in it for a long enough period of time. And this is also assuming that you have the right message and then you're reaching the right audience. And we can talk more and more about it, but I would just say that there's a tremendous amount of options. There's a lot of things you can do. It's not always budget dependent, but you do have to invest something, especially if you want to grow and you want to stand out.
Sometimes I even think a limited budget makes you more resourceful, which is great.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Budget makes people lazy.
Yeah.
We say this all the time with the marketing team. We're like, budget makes people lazy. We want to keep people sharp. Some of the best campaigns, some of the best marketing initiatives we came up with were on the most limited budget of all. It's too easy to say, oh, let's just throw ad spend at it, right? And let's just spend more money. I mean, then all creativity goes out the window. But when you're limited, then you have to really think strategically and say, how do I get the most from the time, the resources, et cetera, that we could be doing? It really forces you to have to work off this forcing function.
Yeah.
And to focus in.
Absolutely. All right, to round us out today with question number 3. Michael, I'm in an extremely competitive city, and I know I'm a better lawyer than most of my competitors, but I'm having trouble standing out and proving that I'm the better choice. What advice do you have for me?
I would start by acknowledging reality. So you are a better lawyer than many of your competitors, but you're having a difficult time standing out and proving that that's the case. So years ago, we trademarked, and we still have the trademark, to the best cases go to the best marketers.
Yep.
Which is an unfortunate truth. I wish this were not the case. I wish that the best cases went to the best lawyers. That would be great for everyone. Unfortunately, because we deal in reality, the best cases go to the law firms that are generally the best marketers, because they're the ones that are getting their message out there, and they're the ones that become known. If you are the best kept secret, and let's say you're a phenomenal lawyer, but nobody knows about it, right? They can't hire you. It's interesting. I think this has evolved over time, for sure, in terms of like the sentiment amongst lawyers, but every now and then I'll still come across a firm owner that's just so frustrated. They're such a good lawyer, and they lash out at these large advertisers and say, well, I don't want to be a great marketer. I just want to be a great lawyer. And I say, well, do you want to make an impact? And they'll say, yes. Do you care about the clients and the people that you serve? Yes. Well, then you have a responsibility to advertise, because if you don't do it, that doesn't prevent anybody else from doing it. And the same firms that you don't like or you say are predatory, they are going to advertise regardless. You could either be at the table or on the menu. So if you're not getting your message out there, it doesn't prevent them from doing so. And the prospective clients are just going to hire the lawyers that you don't want them to hire. So you have a duty to advertise, and you have a duty to market. Let's say you're a wonderful lawyer. Let's say you're amazing. Great. How do you showcase that? Right? Maybe you do an insane amount of client testimonials. Maybe you get an insane amount of reviews. Maybe, like we were talking about earlier, you become an authority by writing books or conducting presentations. But all those things are also a form of marketing. A colleague of ours here in Atlanta, and he would say he doesn't market, and he's a divorce lawyer. He's known as like the divorce entertainment lawyer, like athletes, celebrities,
yes,
like top,
musical artists,
CEOs,
yeah.
Everyone works with him. And he says, I never marketed, but he was the past president of the American Bar Association, and he also has written several books and is seen as the go-to authority in family law. That is a form of marketing, right? It's just different, right? Maybe you never ran ads, but you did put out an incredible amount of content that established authority and made you the go-to expert in your particular, practice area. So, and then also you provided, great service and great client experience, and that created a tremendous amount of referrals and in
Momentum.
Some cases repeat business.
There's that too, yeah.
Some recurring. But yeah, you just have a duty to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So you can be the best, but I think it's first acknowledging that you're better off being different than being better from a marketing standpoint. And it's not to say you shouldn't be a great lawyer. You 1000% should be a great lawyer. The entire reason we even started CRISP was to level the playing field between the great lawyers and the great marketers, so we can help the great lawyers become the great marketers. That's kind of the basis of why we even started the company in the first place. But it's just acknowledging the fact that being a great lawyer is not enough if you want to make a great impact. And if you want to make a great impact, you have to be able to reach your ideal clients. And in order to reach them, you have to market. You have to promote what it is that you do, and you have to find ways to get in front of those people and stand out and differentiate in a way that gets them to respond to you and gets them to reach out to you and gets them to think of you before they think about anybody else. And if you can't answer, why should someone hire us and not our competition? More importantly, if the prospective clients can't answer that, well, then we have some work to do.
Exactly. And that'll round us out today.
All right, guys. Until next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.